The Patriots are getting ready for their reunion with former defensive coordinator Matt Patricia, now head coach of the Detroit Lions. I'm Alex Barth. He is Evan Lazar from Gillette Stadium. And Evan, before we get to Matt Patricia this week as the head coach, one last thing we have to revisit with Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator. As unfortunate as it is at times, Matt Patricia took a lot of heat for the Patriots' apparent defensive shortcomings last year. And the game against Jacksonville, people said that looked like the Patriots in the Super Bowl in February.
Right.
So let me ask you this. Does Sunday's game, with Matt Patricia not involved, vindicate him for the flack he's taken as the defensive coordinator from last season?
Well, I always thought the flack was unfair to begin with, right?
Okay.
Matt Patricia had a job to do.
Yeah.
His job was to win football games alongside Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, and they won a ton of football games in the 6 years that he was the defensive coordinator. 2 Super Bowls, a bunch of trips to the AFC title game, right? So I think that a lot of that talk about vindicating him kind of stems from the fact that, you know, they weren't a dominant defense, especially last year. They were not a good defense. Let's just be frank about it. But 2014, the defense, I think that's a super underrated defense.
Okay.
In the Belichick era. I think that was one of their better ones. But overall, I don't think that Matt Patricia needed any vindication. So one game I don't think is going to certainly change my opinion on whether Matt Patricia was good or bad.
All right, on to this year, on to the Detroit Lions. It's been a shaky start for Matty P as a head coach gets embarrassed by the Jets in the Monday night opener, and then another loss the next week to Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's on the hot seat because it's been 2 games, but the Bovada odds came out. He's one of the favorites to be the first coach fired this year. Is it 2 tough opponents? And again, it's the Niners and the Jets, so it really shouldn't be, but is it 2 tough opponents? Is it a slow learning curve? Or is Matt Patricia just not a head coach?
Well, they're 0-2. And any team that starts 0-2, the stats
Right.
will tell you that the chances of them making the playoffs are basically slim to none. So this season, they had a lot of hope there in Detroit, a lot of talent on that roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and it really hasn't panned out that way. They kept Jim Bob Cooter, their offensive coordinator, around to kind of keep that continuity for Matthew Stafford on the offensive side of the ball. They scored 27 points against the Niners, so it was a little bit better, but not a great defense necessarily in San Francisco quite yet. But I think that defensively, they've just been a mess. I mean, it's really been, they've been thrown on, they've been run on more than any other team in the league right now. They're allowing almost 6 yards per carry on defense, in run defense. So it's been a mess. And I think that kind of continuity that they lost from last year is the Lions defense was never great last year either, but it's a whole new defense that I think is definitely a little bit of a learning curve.
That sounds familiar. Sounds a little like the Patriots defense last year, even though the yardage numbers were high, the points were low, but teams moved up and down the field on them. How much of last year's Patriots defense do you think we will see on Sunday in the Detroit Lions?
A lot. So that's something I'm going to write about this week because I think that it's a big storyline in this one. Matt Patricia is running the Bill Belichick New England Patriots defense in Detroit. He brought it to the Motor City with him.
He even brought Marquise Flowers.
Yeah, I think he literally took the Patriots playbook with him and he just rebranded it with a Detroit Lions
a little
logo.
white out on the top.
Yeah, just a little bit of smidgen here and there because basically they are a single high safety D. They run a lot of cover 1, a lot of cover 3, press man on the outside. Does any of this sound familiar? Right? You know, this is all basically the same thing. The only thing that they have done a little bit differently is they will play split safety a little bit more than the Patriots will, and they blitz just a little bit more. But I think that the blitz numbers and that kind of stuff it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that can be a lot of game plan oriented type things. They played a rookie quarterback in week 1, so maybe you kind of go after him a little bit more than you would a veteran. So I think that a lot of that type of stuff is very game plan oriented, but I do not think that the coverages are game plan. I think that's what he's going to run there.
Do you think he has an edge this week facing Tom Brady, given he's faced, in theory, Tom Brady more than any head coach in football because he was doing it 3-4 days a week in practice in New England?
I think that kind of stuff will eventually wash itself out in this game. So kind of, on both sides of the ball, I think that there is an impact in terms of they are very familiar with the schemes, right? But in terms of like familiarity from personality-wise and like kind of what Tom Brady wants to do, I think a lot of that kind of stuff is going to come down to execution at the end of the day. Which team executes better, which team's players play better in the game, that's the team that's going to win this game. It's not going to come down to familiarity or who knows who better or anything like that.
Matt Patricia, in talking to the media a couple years ago, this was an offhand comment. I don't remember the full quote, but said something along the lines of the one thing he was glad he didn't have to do as an NFL defensive coordinator was come up for game plans for Rob Gronkowski, of course, because he was on the same team.
Yeah.
Now, here we go. A couple years later, he has to do that. So, Evan, How does he do it? How does Matt Patricia go about trying to defend Rob Gronkowski this weekend?
Well, the Jaguars kind of gave him a blueprint, right? You put multiple bodies in his vicinity. You make him run through multiple defenders. You only kind of go one-on-one with him when you really need to, and you put your best, most physical cover guy. So Glover Quinn, the safety, I think is going to be a big key in this game, kind of doing the things that Barry Church did in the Jaguars game, where when they do need to match up with Gronk, they'll put safety help over the top, and they'll have Quinn kind of match up with him one-on-one. I think that Darius Slay, if he plays or doesn't play in this game, is going to be a big factor into how the Lions can kind of approach things. And obviously Ziggy Ansah, too, if he plays or doesn't play, is going to be a big deal as well. But I would look at guys like Glover Quinn. Their linebackers are fast, but they're not big guys, so I think that that's kind of a factor as well in the Gronk thing. There were some throws in that Jaguars game, if we're just being honest, that I think that if Tom Brady was facing a different defense that didn't turn the ball over so much, that he would have forced the ball into Rob Gronkowski a little bit more, but I think that he was worried about those turnovers.
Yeah, Tavon Wilson, not exactly Barry Church.
Yeah, Tavon Wilson is another guy, obviously. He's their strong safety, so he's kind of more of their run support type of guy, but I just don't think that you want to have a matchup of one-on-one with Tavon Wilson and Gronk.
We will see how Matty P does up against his old team. Of course, we'll have coverage of all of it. You can read Evan's piece on it at clnsmedia.com. It will be on our Twitter as well, at PatriotCLNS. From Gillette Stadium, he's Evan Lazar. I'm Alex Barth for CLNS.